Here, guy, hey guys, Joe here, and today I will be making a video where I will be making borders after World War II for if the Allies wanted this, nothing changed, but I just how I would have done the borders, I guess. But so we will start over here in Britain. Now, in real life, the US would convince um Britain to let go of an area roughly shaped like this, but no, they didn't let go of this. They kept that, but they let go of all this. However, we will not be drawing any borders in Ireland. However, instead, we will have the Americans fully convincing the British to fully let go of Ireland. Next, we move on down to um Portugal, who won the war, but they don't border anyone, so they won't be getting anything out of this except for probably like reparations. But next, we move on. Oh, I'm going to save Germany for last. So we move on over to Italy, where um they will get a lot of land because I want them to. They'll take North and South Tyrol like they did in real life. Stretch, however, the border will look a little bit different, looking like this. Next, we will give them Istria like in real life, extending this border a bit up here. Then, of course, we will give them this territory in Dalmatia. And that is it for the Italo-Austro-Hungarian border. However, Austria-Hungary is not done yet. Now, this is a lot of land for Italy to suddenly gain, and they weren't the strongest of countries in 1914. Um, they didn't have very good uh production. Their production, Belgium, I think, had better production rates than Italy did at that time. But Italy will gain this land and hopefully they can maintain it. Next, we will be moving over here to Serbia and Montenegro. Montenegro, Montenegro will gain, considerable amounts of land here, stretching out this way till their borders look like this. And unlike in the peace treaty after World War I in our own timeline, they will not be uniting with Serbia. However, Serbia will still be gaining some territory from the Slavic areas, taking the areas of Bosnia inhabited by Serbs, as well as a little bit of Vojvodina. However, not a lot of it, as we will see what the rest of it is done later. As this is mostly done by the Allied powers to give Serbia a little bit of more of territory, like a buffer zone, to protect Belgrade if any Austrian attacks are or Bulgarian attacks are to happen again. Though Bulgaria less so. So they will, so I said, they will be annexing Serbska, or however you say that, and this southern Vojvodina area to the north of their country, looking like this. Now, they won't get to fully form Yugoslavia in this timeline because I don't like Yugoslavia, so it won't be happening. We will have a small Bosniak state here next to Montenegro and Serbia. However, it isn't as big as um it is in the modern day. And Yeah, that is it for them. As you can see, I am drawing a border, and hopefully you already know what this border is for. They, the Austrian Empire will be divided between Hungary and Austria. Now, this isn't perfect, but it's good enough. So, yeah. Now, a couple border changes will be happening. Hungary will lose some land, but not all, as the Allied powers have decided not to blame Hungary for the war. Some areas around the Hungarian people in Transylvania will be owned by the Romanians. However, Hungary will hold on to Transylvania, and in the end, neither of these powers are satisfied with this border, especially Romania. Um, Bulgaria will Bulgaria will actually gain land from this treaty in our version, despite losing the war. They will gain this territory from Romania to make it harder for them to invade, further angering Romania, who is just this war's like, why did they lose land if they won? I mean, come on, people. However, Bulgaria will still lose land, of course. The Greeks will take Thrace, as they did in our timeline. However, they will also be annexing up to the straits between Europe and Asia. Now, we're going to move on to the Ottoman Empire now before we continue with Austria-Hungary. And there are a couple things that need to happen. First of all, we go over to Cyprus. Cyprus will. So the British still control Cyprus, and they have military bases on the southern coast here, but the Greeks believe it should be theirs. So this area, known as the military coast, which will now be known as the military coast, will be given to Britain, whilst this northwestern part is given to the um why can't I think of the word Greeks? However, Crete will be lost by the Greeks over to the Italians, actually, who will secure themselves a nice chunk of Greek islands. Well, I guess they're Italian now. And the Allies will put forth their original plan for partition of the Ottoman Empire, with Italians gaining this part. However, there's a different change, with the Greeks gaining a little bit of the southern coast here as compensation for losing Crete and other important islands in the Aegean Sea. And also, it's an important location between Cyprus and the Turkish coast. Um, independent Greek state of Izmir will be created. However, this is not owned by Greece. Um, there is also a small state over here that is not actually so small. That is a Greek state that will be aligned with the Greeks, but not fully part of Greece. Um, Now this will basically just go as that Allied treaty goes. France will gain this part, and then Britain's part is off the thing, and this will just become a Turkish remainder. So next we move back on over to here, where the Americans are pushing for self-determination. Americans. In Galicia, finally the Hungarians will be forced to let go of Galicia. Very, very, very angry about this. Whilst Poland, which was under control of the Central Powers at the end of The war, even though Russia left, so they can change stuff with that, will be given to the Galicians as well to form a Polish state. There also will be a border for the new Polish state set up along, I believe this is called the Oldenburg or something like that river. Look, it goes along something like that. That's the modern German-Polish border. But that is what will create the border between Germany and Poland, with Poland being very, very massive after this. I'd say they're actually probably one of the largest states in Europe at this point, probably comparable in size to France, Spain, countries like those, but that's pretty big them. Next, the Austrians will, of course, we all know how this goes. They will be banned from unifying with the Germans. Unsure how if that's gonna get fall through. Like in our timeline. However, of course, Bohemia slash Czechia will be let go to form the Republic of Bohemia and Moravia, as Slovakia is still part of angry, angry Hungary. And now Germany just really doesn't like this peace treaty. Hungary will be let off with no changes after this, and we move on to Germany. Of course, France will be annexing Alsace-Lorraine, or else, um, I think we would see a continuation of World War One probably if that didn't happen. This is probably good enough. It's not really, but eh. Now, so this will be just one of many German losses in this peace treaty. Now, I like Germany, so they're gonna still exist. I'm not gonna completely dissolve them. Well, I didn't like Germany after World War One, but Germany now is fine. But however, they will lose the Saarland and the Rhineland. However, Belgium and Luxembourg, of course, will have reparations. Um, a British base in Bremen will be set up to prevent the Germans from using that naval port. And despite Denmark not participating, Schleswig and Holstein will be given over to them as well. The Dutch will also gain minor compensation along the border, despite them not being involved either. But uh, okay, they're just gonna have that. Luxembourg will of course be expanded because they need reparations for being invaded by the Germans, despite being like the tiniest. Well, not the tiniest, actually. There are several states in Europe smaller than them, despite being considered a micro state. But anyway, this is what the new borders of Western Europe will look like. Um, um, I'm not gonna do anything else to Germany quite. I think this is probably fine. We're gonna leave Russia, the Baltics, Ukraine, Belarus, and Finland. We'll just let the Russians fight off their civil war by themselves. And there's one more thing we need to look at. And we are going to be looking at ideology. So brown will be monarchies. So and light brown will be, well, you probably guessed the constitutional monarchies like Britain. However, Denmark will be a monarchy. I don't care if they were a constitutional monarchy, they're a full monarchy now. Um, the Dutch are going to be a republic, which is this blue. Now, I don't know what much of the governments after World War One were like, or during World War One, I suppose. So this is just going to be based on what I remember. Though, sorry if it is totally inaccurate. And as I said, the British will be a constitutional um monarchy, because what else are they supposed to be? I mean, come on. The the Irish are actually going to be a direct democracy, which is interesting. Iceland will gain independence after this in exchange for Denmark gaining Schleswig-Holstein, and Denmark is okay with that. And Iceland will also be a direct democracy. Portugal will be um a republic. Wait, this is not the right color. Portugal will be a republic. Let me just fix that. Yeah, Portugal will be a republic. S- Um, Spain will actually be a constitutional monarchy. Um, Italy will be a constitutional monarchy as well. I believe they're a full monarchy, but I'm not quite sure. But too bad. Today they are becoming a full on constitutional monarchy. This tiny state of Smyrna, I suppose, is going to be a monarchy because you wouldn't understand. Greece is very happy with this treaty, and they, like many of their neighbors, are going to be a constitutional monarchy. Oh, that boring European stuff, constitutional monarchies, blah blah blah. Um, the Turks, per demand of the Americans, will be a republic or such democracy. France is a democracy, so they're there. And this, like their fellow Smyrna state to the south, this Black Sea country, it will be a monarchy. Bulgaria will get a new government after the war and will be a constitutional monarchy. Um, Serbia will be a democracy. Bosnia will be a direct democracy. I'm not sure how well that will turn out for them. Montenegro will be a monarchy. Albania will be a constitutional monarchy. Um, Hungary will also be a constitutional monarchy. Romania is going to be fascist because they're angry. Um, Austria is going to turn communist because they're also angry. Bohemia is going to be a monarchy, and Germany is going to be fascist, though probably wouldn't be called fascism because that was named after the Italian word for bundle of wood, I think. But since Italy isn't fascist in this timeline, it would probably be called something else. But Poland will be a democracy. The The whites will actually pull out in the Russian Civil War because I want them to. So they will be a monarchy. Big monarchy, Russia, what everyone needs. Sweden will be a constitutional monarchy. Norway, a actually a direct democracy. And finally, for these last few, France, democracy. which also warrants all their colonies as democracies. Um, Belgium as a direct democracy. Luxembourg will actually be a duchy, which is a little bit different than a monarchy, but basically the same. The Rhineland will be a democracy, and the Saarland will actually turn communist in the years after its creation, which the French don't really like, but they're allies, and the Saarland isn't very great about that. San Marino will be a direct democracy. Monaco will be a Monaco E. Andorra will be a mix of a theology and a um democracy, so they'll be that color. And Malta will be finally a direct democracy. So this is what the religions afterwards look like. Um, so yeah, alliances, I would say, well, hmm, alliances, I'd probably say that France and Britain probably they wouldn't get rid of the Entente. They'll keep it. Of course, Russia will be part of this, as their old government decided to rejoin. Italy will be a part of this. Portugal will be a part of this. And finally, Greece will be a part of this. Now, Russia also has a defensive pact. Well, Russia will also have a defensive pact with Serbia, which is separate from their alliance. And this is these are not like an attack one, attack all alliance like the Square Alliance is. This is more we guarantee your independence kind of thing, but it will consist of Russia, Hungary, Serbia, Poland, Bulgaria actually, and again another, what the heck, why is that in it? Turkey, and finally Bohemia, Moravia. Now, if we look at the ideology layer, you will see that not one extremist ideology is inside of it. It's all actually monarchies or constitutional monarchies. And I'm gonna do something really quick so that you can see their color better. We'll have defensive plaques. Be this dark cyan instead so you can see it. But as we can see, it's all just mo versions of monarchies plus the democracies in Serbia, Turkey, and Poland. That, however, will be all. We're trying to get 200 subscribers by 2026. So please like and subscribe, and I will see you next time.